So just starting off with some kind of major announcements this week. It's been 2 weeks since our last call, and some major developments have happened in that time. And there were some major developments on the last call. So I will lead this week with what was announced last week or 2 weeks ago in that call with the storage provider, or sorry, storage partners. So we announced our storage partner program. This is the way that we see the kind of 1,000 and 10,000 companies will be reached to store on our network. We foresee partners as being very important and playing a pretty key role in reaching out and helping kind of establish more users and knowledge and customizations, integrations, all of that. So we know that partners are very important. We've put a lot of effort and resources into developing that program. So now we are opening that up. We can announce that next Wednesday, we will have the inaugural storage partner call. So that will be on Zoom, but you can get a registration link, or you can be part of that call, even if you just want to listen in through signing up on xns.tech/partner. So if you go to xns.tech, partner should be one of the headings along the top, but you can sign up for our partner program there and be part of the first storage partner call, as that will be a barn burner. I don't think you'll want to miss that. Second, we're starting off pretty hot this week. Second, I'm pretty happy to announce actually that our retail storage price is coming down next Monday from $10 per terabyte per month to $7.99. So that is pretty awesome to see as well. I think that just helps us be all the more competitive, even though obviously we're very competitive in terms of like performance and price and security. Now we're even more competitive. And if price is even at the new $7.99 a barrier, then I encourage you to join the storage partner program, as that is part of the purpose there. But that's pretty exciting. And I will also preface that we are still open to pre-seed investment, so accredited investors only, of course, as the law requires. I can't give any details, but if you are interested or would like to learn more about what can happen, then email investor@xns.tech or contact probably one of us, and we can point you there as well. Now more toward the open source project. I think, so talking about mining pools for a second, we have called on the last storage provider call, and maybe the one before that if you are running ASIC miners, if you're running consensus miners, we've asked people to start kind of migrating and moving some of those from Sia mining, which is by far the largest pool on our network, which had generally done a good job, but had been kind of disconnected from the community for a while. No one was able to reach the pool operator. So we started kind of putting out the call that people should switch to either SC Prime Pool or DX Pool, which are the number 2 and number 3 pools on our network. And by and large, people have done that. So we're just kind of putting out that call again, that it's beneficial from a decentralizing standpoint, and also from just the fact that we have good communication with the operators of those pools, but not the operators of Sia mining. So it is, if you're running ASIC miners and you're still running on Sia mining, then consider switching over. I personally did that. I switched to SC Prime Pool, and I've been pretty happy. The pool op is very active in our Discord, so that's always good to see. Now, toward the kind of... actually, before we get to the fork and SPFB and support, which I have my friend Sparky here on the call for, I just also want to touch on, for those of you who have been patiently waiting for SCP University, that's very close to getting out of the gate. I think you can probably expect that, if not before the weekend, then immediately after. So definitely over the next coming days, 1 to 2 business days, we'll say, then SCP University is very close to debuting. I appreciate everyone who's been asking, and looking forward to that coming out, and look forward to having that be available, because I think it's a pretty important kind of knowledge base to build. I've enjoyed having more kind of video informational format content, and I think, I know actually that I'm preparing more. So that'll be a good thing to have out in the world, and I think it's needed to exist, and now it will. So that's cool. So moving more toward the fork, SPFB support, I will call on my friend Sparky or Mark, who's our support lead in the project, and he's going to tell us about some of what's been going on there. Take it away, Sparky.
Hey, Henry. Yeah, thanks for that. So just wanted to cover, hopefully most people are aware of these issues, but I just want to make sure that everyone's on the right page. First off, in terms of upgrading to a pre-fork version of SPD, obviously it's too late now, but if anyone hasn't updated from a 1.6 version to 1.7 version, if you update now, it's really important that after updating, you delete your consensus DB file, which is basically your blockchain. In your metadata folder, you'll see a consensus folder, and in there's a consensus.db, which is about a 5 gig file. If you haven't updated pre-fork to 1.7, then you need to delete that file after updating. We're seeing quite a lot of people who have updated late and haven't then deleted that file. If you look on your Grafana page, you will see a message saying, well, your blockchain is out of sync. That is the indication that you need to delete your consensus file if you've just updated post fork to 1.7. So hopefully that kind of covers that. Then obviously last week on Friday we had this bug that hit us and took a lot of the providers offline. To get around that bug, you need to update to 1.7.2. So if you updated pre-fork, you need to do a second update, which we'd always planned all along to include a change there called min peer, whereby providers will only talk to sort of provide other providers who are upgraded post fork. So this was always an upgrade which was planned. We just kind of included this bug fix in that version. So 1.7.2 is the latest version. And what a lot of providers have kind of noticed after doing this upgrade is that the host module can take a long time, days in a few cases, to come online fully load. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do to speed that process up. We just need to kind of leave it to load. So if it's kind of sat there loading the host module and nothing else kind of appearing to happen, you just need to leave it and wait it out. The people have kind of gone through that now and have come online afterwards and are working fine. So just be aware that can happen. Then last few days we've been getting a lot of questions about SPFB rebates. So what is happening as we speak is the X miners, the hardware X miners, are getting an update to the latest UI version. I forget the exact version now, but 1.2.4, 1.2.5, I think it is, or 1.2.6. But that UI update includes the ability to see your SPFBs as well as SPFAs if you have them in the Examiner wallet. So on the Founders page, you will see the number of SPFBs if you have them, and also gives you the ability to send and receive SPFBs. So when you go to send now, there's a drop-down list where you choose whether you're sending SCP, SPF, or SPFB. So just be aware that that change is there in the kind of the UI wallet now. You'll also see a number below your SPF on the main financials page. At the moment, it'll show probably a very small fraction number. What that number is the SCP that your SPF have earned so far, which have not been claimed. So a lot of people are asking, well, how do we get these SCP that the SPF earn? And the process is that you need to send the SPF to another wallet address, and when the SPF gets sent, it's when effectively those SCP that you've earned get claimed and kind of effectively appear in your wallet after that under your SCP balance. This isn't something you need to do on a regular basis. They can sit there and claim for years if you want. You won't lose them or like that. They just build up, and you'll see that number build up over time. So just to explain what you're going to see in that Xminer UI update and what those numbers mean. So that's the hardware Xminers. The software Xminers, there's an update coming in the next few days for the full license guys, which will include that same UI update. So similar to before, you'll need to run the installer to pull down the latest Xminer container, and that will update you to the latest UI version, so you'll be able to see those as well. Another for the DIY guys, or if you're using the CLI on your full license provider, if you're using an older version of SPC, this version SPC doesn't understand the SPFB yet. In the coming Xminer update will be the latest version of SPC, which then under CLI will show you the SPFB in your wallet. So you'll see the same numbers in there on the CLI. So if you're looking for that now, you probably won't see any SPFB. That doesn't mean that in your wallet, so don't worry about that. It's just that the CLI doesn't yet understand it. In a few days, once you get the updates, you'll be able to see them there as well.
That's awesome, Mark. Thank you for sharing all that. So would it be kind of fair to say that after all the releases that are either already coming or coming out over the next few days, once everybody updates, so once again, if you're on a hardware Xminer, the update is automatic, and if you don't already have it, then you should pretty shortly. And if you're on a full license, then there should be an update released in the next couple of days. But Mark, do you think it'd be fair to say that after one performs those updates, then they should be ready to rock and roll for everything that has developed over the last couple of weeks, like SPFB, some of the claims, being able to choose in the UI which one you want to send? Would that be fair?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and the other thing to mention as well is the rebates, the rebate calendar for the people who have chosen SCFBs will now show up in that rebates panel rather than just saying they'll be paid out after the fork or one of the messages. So the calendar will again appear with that update as well. So that's another thing that's included.
Super. And yeah, before we get too far away from SPFB, I did just kind of want to reiterate, I know Mark already said this, but since this is kind of important to understand how SPF work. So I think we all kind of have the understanding that SPF, they collect a fee on every contract formation across the whole network. So that's how they kind of passively yield SCP, which is the mechanism that they're designed to do. So they just kind of the SPF themselves just kind of sit in your wallet. They're not utility focused, so they're not used for actual smart contracts themselves, anything like that. That's still what SCP are for. But these just kind of earn a bit of a dividend every time a contract forms. So that's how they bring home the bacon. But these claims that you earn aren't like automatically deposited in your wallet. The way that it works is your wallet software over time keeps track of what claim it has earned, and then when you want to, you can kind of claim that claim, I suppose, for lack of a better word. So that mechanism itself, usually the way that it looks like is just sending all of the SPF to yourself. I'm sure in the near to medium term future, we'll have a neater way of doing that in the UI. Maybe just a button that says claim, and then it does that. But it's perfectly okay to let that claim just sit and accumulate. Personally, the SPF that I have been accumulating for a long time. I actually take great satisfaction in just every couple of weeks looking in and seeing the number go up. I actually really like that, and it would make me a little sad if I claimed it and then it went back to zero. So you're perfectly welcome to just let the claim build. I think that's probably what most people do, but just figured I'd put that knowledge out there.
And Henry, I've just posted in the distributed data center channel just a screenshot of the Xminer UI, just so people can kind of see what to expect, and also the CLI about.
Great, thank you. Just a little bit. Oh, this is actually a pretty hot point. We're bringing the heat this week. I think so anyway. So we have in 2023, we still have 1.7 million SPF that are to be earned. So these are SPF that people opted to take for a rebate instead of the SCP rebate, or if they bought during the Black Friday and Beyond sale when all of the rebates were SPFB. Then there are still 1.7 million SPF that are yet to be earned this year. But we are kind of reviewing the situation and we are strongly considering actually sending all of them out early. So if you'll remember, the kind of thinking and the purpose behind the rebates in the first place is that we want there to be some important incentives for all storage providers once they get involved to kind of stick around and feel like they have some skin in the network. So the way that we did that initially is we kind of said, or we provided a set reward that if you stick around for like 3, 6, 9, and 12 months, or whatever the intervals were, then you would get a kind of fixed amount back. But we feel kind of some of the paradigm shift that comes with SPFB is that you are becoming a equity holder in the network of sorts. So we think that the incentives there are kind of strong enough that you might that things are kind of working in such a way that you're already kind of incentivized to stick around if you have any SPFB at all. So we're kind of weighing that situation. Haven't made a hard decision yet, but um, that's kind of on the radar, and I figured that that'd be welcome news to all of you as well. Lastly, I think there are some promotional SPF as well. Mark, do you want to speak to this a little bit? What are some of the ways that people could have earned SPFB through promotions or kind of community things going on? And what's the deal there?
Yeah, so there's the promotion around so Christmas time with the get double amount of SCP if you bought, sorry, SPF if you bought 3 full licenses or extra miners. So those for those people, the double kind of SPF won't show in your rebates panel. So don't worry if you just see the kind of the basic rebates there. The bonus ones will be dealt with kind of manually. And again, we're in the process of working out how to send those to the people who took part in that promotion. So they will get taken care of in the near term. And then this kind of speaking on behalf of Ian, if people didn't see his post a couple of days ago, for the people who SPFA in the from the investors back in around for autumn time, Ian announced a couple of days ago that for those people who bought SPFA, they will get the same number of SPFB from him in the short term as well. Once he's worked out how to kind of send those to providers. So if you bought 1,000 SPFA from Ian, you'll also get 1,000 SPFB now.
Super. And if I recall from the autumn, there was that full license promotion going on as well, where I think there was something, if you were still running with a certain uptime by the end of April, then you qualified for something. Can you refresh me on that?
Yeah, so that was for people who purchased the full license upgrade or full license prior to end of October, I believe it was, and had a provider up and running effectively by the end of the year, so that they would have at least 3 months uptime by beginning of April. I was it 1,000 SPF was the bonus for that, I believe. Again, it was an investor-led promotion. Those won't obviously go out until I guess April time once Ian's and the investors have checked the requirements for that promotion for people who took part in that.
Awesome. I think that's hopefully all of the that are still out there. Hopefully that's all of them kind of addressed. Do you have any kind of last thoughts on the fork and SPFB and things going on in the support side of right now before we move on?
No, that pretty much covers all the hot topics for the last couple of weeks. I mean, the fork went off really smoothly in the end. It was just very unfortunate that bug 2 days later hit us and made it look or appear that it wasn't quite so smooth. But yeah, timing was not ideal. But I think it's good that a few days later the network is all up on 1.7.2, apart from less than 10%, I'd say, of providers have not upgraded to the latest version. So yeah, the most of the providers are paying attention, which is good, and getting updates done when they need to, which is really good.
Awesome. Thanks for thanks for keeping us up to date on all of that. So lastly, gonna start kind of moving more toward some open discussion type topics. I think this is hopefully where some of the strengths of Twitter Spaces are going to come in. So this last part will be hopefully more democratic and a bit more open-ended. So I know in our typical storage provider meetups, this kind of last phase of the discussion is more question and answer type thing. But here, I'm thinking we're going to more kind of give, if somebody wants some space on the floor to talk or add on to something that was already discussed, or of course ask a question, then we can do that here. So yeah. So the kind of last point that I wanted to bring attention to this week is, I think most of you are familiar that we have two main exchanges that our SCP token is traded on. So that's South Exchange and TradeOgre. I think within the community, probably most people seem to favor using South Exchange. But if you've paid some attention, then you might have noticed that actually TradeOgre is the larger of the exchanges between the two. And I think while there are calls for SCP to be listed on Binance or some other mega enormous exchanges, while I would love to see that, the way that we get to places like that is by kind of working up the ladder. And right now, TradeOgre is one rung on the ladder higher than South Exchanges. So would like to just kind of put a general call out there for if you are using South Exchange now or you have used it in the past, then to consider using TradeOgre in the future. I know people like to kind of dump on the UI a little bit, that it looks like it's from the early 2000s, but you know what? It's an exchange that knows what it is. Everything that's on the page is all that you need to do a trade, and I think it's actually pretty elegant. And after a day or two, I actually liked it quite a bit more. So yeah, just kind of putting a call out there to maybe move some volume or move some trade orders over to TradeOgre, and that would be one of the most beneficial things for the tokenomics side of things. So that's where I would like to kind of open up the floor as well. I know in the community over the last week or so, there have been some community-run spaces in relation or kind of in periphery to our project, and some of those had some thoughts on TradeOgre and some of the other developments that have been happening in the space. So I'd like to kind of put the call out there. So if you have thoughts, then you can request to speak. Maybe Jeff and Duke have some thoughts already loaded. There might be a little bit of a delay here, as I know the way that Twitter Spaces work is a little different than Discord Stage, where I think if you are speaking in a Twitter space, you're about 10 to maybe even 15 seconds ahead of everyone who's hearing it. So anytime I say something like that, like, oh yeah, put the call out, put your hand up now if you want to speak, there's going to be a little bit of a delay before people actually start doing that. But yeah, this was the time to kind of do that. All right, we have Jeff up here and Duke connecting. But if you guys have some thoughts or some points to kind of discuss, you're welcome to start into that.
Hey,
Yeah,
Henry.
I just wanted.
Oh, hey, Duke.
Go ahead.
No, Duke, you
Hey,
go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say, just appreciate what you said about TradeOgre. I think that, people who comfortable or like buying on South Exchange are mainly storage providers. And I think if we can get more volume and visibility on TradeOgre, then I think it gives us an opportunity to maybe get the attention of other investors and traders and just give us a broader exposure to the market out there. So, especially if we have the volume, it puts SCP Prime on the front page, and people can go out and see that maybe haven't heard of the project or kept up with it and can see it and start looking into it. And so maybe we can just get some attention to the project that we currently don't have by not having that volume on TradeOgre. That's all I wanted to say.
Thanks, Duke.
That's right. I think we were consistently the top traded or top volume token on South Exchange. So I think we have, it would probably be fair to say that we've kind of outgrown South Exchange a bit, and it's time to move on up the ladder. So Jeff, did you have something to say to that?
Yeah, I've used both of them over the while. I spent a lot of time talking to the TradeOgre guys. before we got on there. And I will admit that, yeah, I went to South Exchange myself. But TradeOgre, yeah, get your head around it. It's if you're buying, it's a quick, easy, functional exchange. And right, there's no time to waste in the troll box, etc. I just want to say that I appreciate this the Twitter space. I know we've done some late night calls. The DGens have. I'm not sure one about this audio thing you're talking about, but whatever. I do know that you need to be on your phone, like you said. The thing that I really like about it, as some of you may have noticed already, that you can go down that list of people that are in this channel and you can follow them. You can see who else is listening, and you can follow them on Twitter. You can see what they have to add. It seems to me like a really good place to grow the project, and that's what I like about it. Anyways, thanks for the call and the chance to talk, Henry.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I think one of the early calls that I know you and I were both in, which was pretty interesting, is actually held by a different Twitter account, but that was kind of an open discussion on DPIN infrastructure. Do you remember that, Jeff? Do you know what DPIN is?
Decentralized physical infrastructure network. Is that what the I is? Infrastructure?
Yeah, that's what it was. So that was kind of a interesting and open Twitter space. So it seemed like it was, well, DPIN, to kind of frame that, I think decentralized physical infrastructure network. That's kind of the broad category for networks like Helium, networks like ours that are more storage oriented, some of the kind of decentralized or distributed compute networks. That's just kind of the broad class that all of those fall under. So what's kind of interesting about Twitter Spaces, I guess in kind of as opposed to the Discord stage that we were using previously, is it's pretty easy to stumble into someone else's Twitter space and maybe come upon some names or some discussion or some points, some projects that you maybe wouldn't have learned otherwise. And that can definitely work in our favor. So
Absolutely. We found that one because one of the guy that published the Masari one page with all the DPIN on it, I started following him. And if you're on Twitter, it pops up at the top and it says, so and so that you're following is in a space. The same thing as those spaces, they tell how many people have tweeted about them. They say, hey, there's 50 people in here and 10 have tweeted. And so every time that we're in one, it's a good thing to say, hey, I'm in this space right now, or hey, I'm checking out SC Prime. If you want to connect. But yeah, so that Masari one, it just stumbled into it, and all of a sudden they're talking about that stuff. It definitely was, they had their agenda that night, but it was a good thing to listen to.
Yeah, that's right. And I hope it's not just because I kind of exist in a bubble. I don't think it's that. But do you think, from your perspective and what you've seen, do you think it's fair to say that there's actually been a renewed interest and actually a pretty incredible amount of interest in specifically decentralized storage and infrastructure this year? I mean, I think I saw today, actually, some people were sharing that Binance and like BNB chain, they just made some announcement about investing in decentralized storage. Seems like things are really heating up.
Green space, is that what it's called? It seems a little bit.
Yeah,
it's a tricky one.
Greenfield, that was it.
Greenfield. It sounds like they're going to put the basically the encoding information on chain, on the BNB chain, but it's all going to point to AWS endpoints. So it's not decentralized. It's more like it's almost like the version of a relayer. But yes, I think that people are, after watching Helium, and then all those lowlands are pivoting to 5G. Helium's launched their mobile. The call that we were in was about Pollen, which was a DPIN 5G cell provider. I think in Southern California it was pretty heavy, and they changed all their rules. Everyone was mad. It's a complex space, and we're not on a desert island out here. There's a bunch of people doing similar things, and we're doing it really well.
Yeah, and another thing that I think is kind of interesting. So you did bring up that though BNB is, I guess, or Binance, they're kind of dipping their toes in the water for decentralized storage. Uh, my take or my kind of perspective is a lot of those headlines and a lot of those efforts that seem to be popping up just over the last couple months, and I guess maybe it's coming from people who are just kind of throwing money at uh, new efforts in the space. But what I find interesting, and because I think myself and a lot of other people, especially our team, have been working on this problem, and we've been working in this space since like 2017, 2018. We go back way further than some of these, and it's kind of interesting to me anyway to see these huge headlines like, oh, Binance, like one of the biggest or the biggest exchange in the world right now, investing in this thing, and then you look at it and in like 5 seconds flat you can totally tear it down as like, oh, it's just putting like encoding data on chain, but it's pointing actually at AWS. um, it's kind of frustrating actually to see, but I think there will be a day of reckoning when people kind of see the value in projects that have been around for a couple of years and have been working on these products. Uh, and I think there will be something that kind of comes and separates the boys from the men, I suppose, as far as there being real substance. And I think we're definitely a network that has real substance. Um, Anyone who's used our relayer has been, I think, would say that. And it delivers something that doesn't really exist out in the world right now. Whereas a lot of the stuff, yeah, like, I mean, not that I know much about Greenfield, but if it's just pointing at AWS ultimately, but the encoding data is on chain, that doesn't really do anything that you can't already do. And it's not that technically interesting, but it gets headlines, I suppose.
Well, I wonder, Henry, if they just pointed an S3 endpoint, if they could use any S3 endpoint, et cetera, et cetera.
I think I catch your drift there.
I mean, it may be pointless, but guess what? It's a toe, right? If someone says, "Oh, good idea, this works like this," and then they'll say, "Oh, better idea."
Yeah, and hopefully that is also something that kind of validates to people that don't know that much about cloud infrastructure or the cloud space and have heard us, I'm sure, talk about how we feel supporting the S3 protocol is pretty important. But they don't really have any other perspective or thoughts in the space. Hopefully it is kind of validating that even a force or an entity as large as BNB, they are still ultimately falling back on good old S3. So that is kind of the de facto protocol in the cloud space, and it's one that we support very well. And that's a point that we kind of developed philosophically back in 2017 or 18, and that's what ultimately led to kind of a separation from a lot of the existing thought at the time in decentralized storage, where everything was about new protocols and building from the ground up and totally throwing out everything that was used at the time. And we were the ones, or kind of made to be the black sheep in the space at the time, for kind of saying, hey, there's actually nothing wrong with the protocol itself, and in fact it actually works really well and is like widely supported by a huge amount of applications, and most importantly, people like it. People don't want to move off of it. Why don't we just still deliver all of these excellent things, like decentralized storage, distributed networks? We can still lean into all these strengths and deliver everything that we want, but do it in a way that isn't like totally building everything from the ground up and having to force everyone to move to new apps and build those new apps, which is a huge development, and we'll have teething problems, of course. We as the team, as the white paper, as our community, we kind of identified early on that there's sense in supporting this protocol and this kind of way of thinking. And that was a hot take at the time, and one that people didn't really respect. But I think people are coming around on it.
No, and as I understand it too, once the thing about S3 is that not all S3 use cases are the same, and that's what's so cool about all these Kubernetes. And you can have your compute over here, and you can have your blob object storage over here, and they all work together really seamlessly. That's going to work absolute shit with an Arweave like situation, trying to run your AI on this knob and then try to pull the data off the chain.
Yeah, that's right. I don't really know how they chain like networks or chains like that ultimately store the data in the blockchain itself. I don't really know how they plan on eventually addressing those problems. It seems like a bit of a non-starter to me. I'm sure they have something that they tell their own community as how they're going to address or solve scaling, but it's one of those kind of I'll believe it when I see it, I suppose. And I think just fundamentally approaching it uh, more like how we have will win out, and I mean we're already seeing that. So there are some other networks in our space. Not probably not going to name them today, but if you caught me on a different day, maybe I'd be willing to. But there are some near competitors that are kind of pivoting or have pivoted in the last year or so in such a way that now they resemble a lot closer to what we're doing and what we've been doing for the last 4 years. So yeah, there's just a lot happening right now in the space that is both validating to us. Um, yeah, it just kind of reinforces that what we're doing is probably the winning strategy, and we were way ahead of the curve on that. But I think our time to shine is coming, and there's a lot of good momentum that's kind of building up. So hopefully, with that move to TradeOgre, things happening on the SPFB front, the storage partner, I think that's going to be a kind of key piece to everything. There's a lot heating up that I think is exciting. So it's been great hearing from Jeff, but if anyone else in the space wants to chat, and of course, Jeff, you're welcome to continue as well. But just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that they were welcome to put their hand up as well and say something if they'd like to. I see Lucio joined on the stage. Don't think that you could get up here without saying something. What's up? What's going on?
Hey guys.
Yeah, how you doing?
Yeah, I actually just installed a relayer at my
Lucio
house.
sucks.
I actually just installed a relayer at my house. It was extremely easy. I mean, like it took like 10 seconds. And so now gotta figure out how I'm need to ease off the AWS bill because I'm getting like $200 a month bills from AWS because I back up my NAS to AWS, and I'm thinking I'm just going to switch it over to Exonet services, right? Because why not?
Yeah, and a very good time to switch as not only the kind of resources and knowledge base building up, but also at the start of the call, we announced our new $7.99 per terabyte per month pricing. So very good time to make the switch, and I'm glad you took it out for a spin. Could you tell me a little bit, or just kind of tell us a little bit, at a high level at least, about kind of how you're using AWS right now and how you see the relayer kind of fulfilling that?
So today with AWS, I'm using Glacier. It's part of the Synology app that you can back up, cold data from your network attached storage. There's an app built in, and you can upload it into Glacier from there. I have had a ton of problems with it connecting and doing backups and things like that. And the bill is quite high, and I think it's because of the retention I have set, or I don't even know how to fix it, to be honest. It's retaining. I think the number was. I gotta look. I think I posted it. Something like 47 terabytes of data when I really just need to retain, a snapshot every month of what I have, right? Which maybe is only 4 terabytes of data that I want just secure offsite. So those are some of the struggles that I've been going through because I shouldn't have to pay $200 a month to retain that amount of data. It's just insanity. I would like to see a built-in app at some point would be nice, just like the Glacier backup app. That would be kind of cool. In the Synology space, I know that'd be something you guys are going to look at some point, I would assume.
Yeah, that is something. We've got a couple items on our list as far as like Synology, TrueNAS. I think there's another one that I'm blanking on that I think make a lot of sense to support. And yeah, in general, that's consistent with our move to be more kind of infrastructure focused. So we do see ourselves underpinning a lot of other applications. And I actually heard something I liked a lot the other week. I think it was Psychotics. I hope he's okay with me attributing this to him, but he kind of painted that having an S3 endpoint is a lot like just having a bare hard drive. So while it is usable and you can put stuff directly on it, it's a lot more powerful, and ultimately we expect people to use it with kind of another layer on top. So in this case, do you have any? Well, yeah, I guess you're using the Synology app directly to back up and do it, which makes a lot of sense. So we foresee ourselves as having more of these kind of application support, investing into that side of things, because I think that's what ultimately unlocks a lot more power from it.
Can I step in here for a second, Henry?
Certainly.
The $7.99 price actually comes with this movement that we're really pushing forward on the partner program, and it actually has a lot of application on the retail side as well. And just you're going to hear this going forward from us quite a bit when we say retail versus partner. Retail just means anybody who comes to the website, signs up for an account, starts storing using whatever S3 apps they want to use, and just start storing. So I assume we're going to get business customers that show up and just buy and use. But our focus will be on the partners. But at the same time, they both will share this one really interesting feature that has risen sort of to the top of our sell matrix, if you want to call it that, the feature list. You know, people talk about, well, why would you do this and blah blah blah. Well, that $7.99 isn't the price if you are savvy to the way our infrastructure works. Let's say we went out and we hit a corporation up and we said, well, look, you know, you can do this storage, but it's going to be a lot better if you pop 20 or 30 Examiner licenses, or Examiners themselves. And we have some new models coming, by the way, which the partners will learn about first. But then the whole idea is, inside the relayer, we're going to give you a real clear ability to set up a custom provider set to store the data portion. And right now our EC ratio is 48-48, so it's easy to just say the data portion on your own miners, right? So you can have a situation where you set up 5-10 licenses or whatever, and then store the data portions on your providers, and then store the parity out, far and wide, to give you durability, redundancy, and availability when, for whatever reason, your own providers might not be available. But then the money comes flowing back into your providers. Hence, your cost per terabyte begins to drop. And depending on how many miners you stand up and how much you actually have there, the cost can drop dramatically, right? So, there was always this concept of, well, how can you compete against the cartels? You can't go out there and say you're going to be $10. That doesn't make any sense. You got to give away storage for free or $1 or whatever it is. And the truth of the matter is, we do have that equation. But the equation works the way you need to help us develop the network, right? Grow out the helium-sized network. And in doing so, what you do is you store your own data on your own devices, as well as on other people's devices. And that's what brings your cost per terabyte down into those really cool killer price ranges. And I think this is going to take a while to really set in. I don't think everybody sees it yet, right? I think people hear it and they say, oh, well, that's an interesting sort of feature. It's the feature. It is the number one feature because what ends up happening there, when you start to store part of the data on your own miners and your own devices, that stuff's going to be really fast. That's hybrid, right? We're building this really interesting distributed network hybrid cloud where everything that is on these miners, and by the way, the beauty of the miners is that you don't have to have an IT administration degree and do all kinds of ongoing maintenance over these things. You could just pop them in people's work pods or send them home with employees or put them all in a big rack or do whatever you want with them. But when they break, you just contact us to get a replacement on a hard drive, or whatever other kind of maintenance that needs to happen. It's not like you have to, keep auditing them for security or do all kinds of crazy other kinds of IT type work behind them. So this is how we're going to grow the network. This is it right here. What will end up happening is customers will come aboard. They'll buy, copious amounts of storage. They'll buy a whole bunch of licenses or miners to back it up. And then at the end of the day, they will start loading up a lot on their own network and then onto the broader network. After year one, their price per terabyte will drop significantly. After two, it'll drop even further. And the reason why it'll keep dropping is because other people will be storing their Paraday data on their miners, right? So by the time they get to year three, year four, year five, instead of them actually paying us for storage, they're getting paid, right? They're making money off this thing. So it's better than the free model that some people talk about. At some point, it actually will be a revenue generator. And so, again, I'll say it again to the people that don't quite yet see this, that's okay. But just understand this is it. This is the number one feature. So buckle up for this because this is how we're going to go from 2,800 providers all the way up to 300,000 within the span of 18 or 24 months. Anyway, I'll turn it back over to you guys.
Wow, that was awesome. And yeah, I'm totally left with the sense that if what I said earlier, where everything that we've been working on for the last 4 years is what everyone else is now just getting to, I think it'd be fair to say that what we are now coming out with and working on, no one else is even close to doing or is talking about or has. So that's really exciting. I think a total paradigm shift. And if you can, I think this is going to almost sell itself. I mean, I was lucky enough to be at NAB last year at the Exanet Services booth, and we already saw the glimmer in people's eyes when we could say, "Oh yeah, we can way undercut your AWS bill and provide better performance and security." I can't even imagine what they're going to do when we can say, "And this can actually turn around after year two and make you money," because that is something that never in the history of cloud data bills has ever happened. It's so ingrained that this is just a bill that you pay every month that I think, yeah, the people who lean into this kind of new approach are going to make out like kings or queens, but they're going to come out emperors because this is such a powerful movement, and it totally makes sense. I mean, you can run the numbers, you can look at the architecture. It's doable, it's sustainable, it works. And I'm really excited that we're able to start bringing that out to the world. And another point that I think is really interesting and exciting, and we have touched on as well, but I think Lucio, when he spoke earlier about actually how just today he set up a relayer and was really impressed and happy with it. We've brought up at a number of points the kind of helium comparison, and I think that is something that could definitely be our greatest strength. So everyone, I think essentially everyone to an extent anyway, uses data either at home or with their work. Maybe it's a lot, maybe it's not, but I think everyone kind of understands what it is. Whereas even something like helium, I guess, where it was more Internet of Things devices, well, a number of people have those. I don't think there's as kind of instinctive of an understanding of what that kind of does and then the value it provides. But I think in the way that helium grew early by having kind of a network of a few thousand nodes, and those people really kind of became evangelists and started to understand the power of the network that they were building. I think that can totally work over here, and if anything, probably be even more powerful. So all of the 2,800 or so storage providers that we have today, I think are prime candidates to be evangelists and learn more and understand what our network is and how it works. One of the reasons we've been so happy to display to our community, not just because we're nice people, but we are. It's also because we are happy to have our community benefit even materially from there being increased use on the network, because that's something that we would like to see. And that's something that we want as much of the community as possible to also benefit from and gain direct kind of exposure to. So we're happy for a lot of our storage providers to become kind of equity holders in the network, since that's sort of what the SPF represent. And that's something that I think will be a really powerful strength and get us to not just the next level up, but 2 or 3 levels up. We're going to, there's a total path forward where we launch upward several orders of magnitude. And I think it makes total sense. And I think, yeah, there's so many different ways to get there. There's so many different factors all contributing that I can't wait to see. And I feel really lucky to be in the position that I am with the team that I'm on, the community that we have. Just really blessed and motivated every day to be working with SC Prime and have the storage providers that we have. So since we are reaching about an hour, if anyone in the Twitter space has a kind of questions, comments, anything like that, then we can take those. But if no one has anything to say, then we can begin winding down. Well, you guys know where to find us. We'll be back in 2 weeks in the same place. So be sure to follow SC Prime on Twitter, and be sure also, if you'd like, to follow any of the other speakers. Hopefully you kind of know who we are, and if you don't, then welcome. So yeah, hopefully this went well, and I think it did, and it's a bit of an interesting and kind of new dynamic compared to the Discord stage. Hopefully we can get a bit more democratic conversation moving forward, and I can totally see a place where in a couple calls from now we have consistently 4 to 5 kind of guest speakers up on stage sharing thoughts. Just kind of talking about the way that they see things, applying it to their personal kind of uses for like cloud storage or through their work or anything like that. But I want to thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you in another couple of weeks. Let's see you around in the Discord sooner than that, since I know probably most of you are present there as well. Anyway, thanks for coming, and take care.